Welcome to the first episode of A Curious Child. Season 2, actually. It's complicated. There's a Season 1. It's only up on audio. This is the television version, I guess. Anyway, this podcast is about exploring creativity. And that might sound strange, but it's really about getting in touch with the inner child in all of us. Because that 5-year-old child that we all once were was fearless. And it would paint and dance and sing. It didn't care what anyone thought. And so to be really creative and it doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 90. You could be also 5 years old, I guess. You're watching this video. But to be fearless forevermore, like in creating art. And that's what we're going to explore. So in this first episode, I'm going to interview a great friend of mine by the name of Tom Clark. Goes by the name of Thomas Clark. And he does something a little different from a lot of people. He makes a living as an artist, a painter. But unlike most artists, he's not an introvert. He's actually an extrovert. And I'm an introvert. This is my playground. I like to stay in here and write music and tell stories. But Tom likes to get out there in front of people. He does live art. So he paints canvases, often huge canvases, in front of a lot of people, and or collaborative art, bringing people together. People who may never have painted before, but with his help, they're part of a big story. And so I had a great time talking to him about this sort of stuff. So we're going to explore a lot of things together. We've known each other a long time, so we've got lots of stories to share. But he also brings stuff out of me that I hadn't thought of in our conversations, which is really great. But it's our first episode, and a musician and a painter gets together with cameras, and we had some tricky moments. What could go wrong? Anyway, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Stay tuned. See you at the end.
What's the name of your thing? Curious? Just Curious, or The Curious?
No, I was going to call it a Curious Child, or The Curious Child, is it? No, I think it's I am like, so you are
a curious child.
A curious child.
A curious child.
So you say, hey, I'm Tom Clark.
Okay.
And I'm a curious child.
I'm Tom Clark, and I'm a curious child.
Are you what's the thing of Thomas Clark? I think, look, it sounds good.
It sounds better than Tom Clark because Tom Clark is Tom Clark. Thomas Clark.
Yeah.
Falls off the tongue better, and it also makes me sound just more special.
Yeah, I agree.
And then my middle name's Arthur, which is art, which is kind of cool. But so you could do either T. Arthur Clark would be interesting, or Thomas A. Clark. So
sounds like a science fiction writer.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah. It's just finding that. Because what is that? Yeah, Clark was a science fiction writer.
Yeah.
Then there's Alistair. No, that's Cook. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's why.
All right, I have lots of questions, but we can come around them. So, what was it like? Okay, so when you go to art school,
mm-hmm.
Everybody goes to something,
yes.
Music. When you're a kid, you dream of being the Beatles,
yes.
for me or something. So you dream about being Van Gogh or whatever,
Yeah.
Was there an artist that you?
No, I was more sports, probably.
No, but as far as painting, if you go.
Yeah, I always liked Degas for some reason, and I think it's because of my design background. I started with design and illustration, and I liked Degas with the way he placed things on the canvas were very designy. He was a designer himself and an artist, which was me too, so I kind of had a little connection there. And I think that's why. So Degas, always liked Picasso just because he was just uniquely
I can see Picasso in your work, in the fact that it's like
well, like this piece behind me is really, I wasn't thinking about Picasso. It's West African art because the event center I was designing this for, Larry, who was starting this, I asked him what kind of music, and he goes, I like rhythmic music, like authentic, like more primal music. And I went to where it started, where Western rhythms started, and that was West Africa. So that's kind of why that kind of came out. But I think that's what Picasso must have been influenced by, because he did a lot of that with the eyes on one side of the face.
Well, also I think for me, go back when I first discovered Picasso, as in I liked Picasso.
Yeah.
I think when I started understanding him, I was about 26, 27 years old. I'd already been a musician for 10 years or more playing, and somehow understanding how the subconscious works and how sometimes the biggest truth is not obviously shared.
Oh yeah.
So the abstract. So that's why I think, with your work, when I look at it, it's not always obvious what it is, which I love.
Yeah.
And so the same with music. I like things to be a bit of a mystery to it, and the audience takes them on a journey.
And I think, to get back to curious, I think he was a very curious person because, I mean, he was a really he could draw very realistic.
Yeah.
And I think he got bored with it, and which we all do in some sense. And then I think also photography took that away from a lot of the artists back. Now we can just show people in photography, so there's no need. But I mean, he had so many different periods in his life where he just changed his sign. That's a problem. Something we talked about this before is like, I just want to do all these different things. I don't have a real style sometimes. I mean, people could look at my stuff and say style, but there's so many different things. He did sculpture. He went from primitive to kind of, he just went through a whole different realm of thing. And the his color change. He even went through cubism.
Mm-hmm.
Brock did the, more block things out. And so he was kind of at the forefront of a lot of different things, which is kind of fun because when you're with a lot of other artists, it seems like it's kind of like inventions. When certain people get together and they have different ideas, one person takes all those ideas and makes something that creates this incredible new thing. And I think he did a lot of that. He was an observer. He took a lot.
Well, I can't remember. I'll get the quote wrong, but where he said, "I spent 2 years or 4 years studying Matisse."
Yeah.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
And the rest of my life trying to paint like a child.
Oh yeah. And it's something like children become artists early on, kind of like you were talking about the genius thing. But the children become artists immediately, and then spend the rest of their life getting away from being an artist, and then you have to get it back. I mean, he said it more poetically, but it's that inner child or that allowing yourself to make mistakes and not caring what the thing looks like. But what happens is with all how we are trained and taught is kind of with testing and all that is to kind of fit in a mode where everybody else is doing the exact same thing. So you lose a little bit of that.
I think true. When I'm coaching, bands or I'm coaching people or something, they don't often understand the process of discovering something great.
Yeah.
So I know it must be the same for you, but my first attempt at making a song or writing the song I hear in my head, it might take me 4 or 5 times to get it right.
Yeah.
And then everybody hears the finished thing.
Yes.
I think of, I'm a big fan of Michelangelo, but the statue of David was, I think, the 4th or 5th attempt.
Yeah.
Until you go, now I'm telling the story I wanted to say. So, for you when you're doing because you do a lot of live art pieces, you don't get a chance to do the second one. So what's that like, the adrenaline rush of doing a live piece?
Oh my gosh, it's it's funny how we end up falling into what we naturally do, and so we spend a lot of our time initially trying to go, how can I make money at my craft? And then you start realizing, I'm not really good at that. I mean, I did so many different things, but it happened basically per chance by our pastor, Chuck Smith Jr. And he basically, I was doing stage design and he just invited me we were just trying to figure out what to do for this next Easter thing. And I'm trying to come up with ideas, and he goes, could you just start building it as we go?
Yeah.
So it turned into a painting. Rob Mathis was playing, which was amazing. But I had not literally painted in, I want to say 15 years. I hadn't even touched.
So in that 15 year, that was actually one of the questions I had.
Yeah.
Which in 15 years, you were actually living as a graphic designer.
Yeah, an Illustrator designer.
Okay.
Yeah, because there was a lot of people during that Pushpin Studios, Milton Glaser and Seymour Quast. They were more illustrative, and back then it wasn't a computer, right? So even your design was boards with overlays.
Yeah, well, the record covers were that plastic. Is that plastic? Whatever, to get the levels and the layers.
Yeah, you do color changes with ruby lift or amber lift. It was so. I didn't even have a computer on my campus, so we learned even the design. We drew letters.
Yeah.
So there was an art form to the letters, and how Palatino or Helvetica or whatever, those letter forms are all different, and there's just a designer who changed the little and how they relate to each other, the kerning, and how each letter next to each other fills a gap for the other letter. There's really an art form. So I loved it because I loved immediacy. I liked seeing and painting and doing a lot of that stuff was in a studio. I wasn't around people. It was just me, in which I'm more like get energy from a crowd. So full circle to this meeting, and then I'm in front of all these people, and I did theater and danced, and I love music, so it kind of fit all those things that I like to do into one thing. And I felt like, oh my gosh, it was very emotional. I just said, this is where I'm supposed to be, at least at this moment, and I felt so much comfort doing that. So actually the spontaneity and having a time limit actually helped me.
Yeah, I like it for me too.
It was almost like a deadline for a design thing. I get it done better because I'll start thinking about too many ideas and you overwork it and it doesn't go. But when you have a limited time, and with music, when you have limited space or what you have to work within, you actually makes you a better artist. And so it really helped me. It fit my personality better. And this was just fun.
So, so we've done it together a bunch of times.
Yeah.
When you're, I call it in the moment. Yeah. There's a famous psychologist, I'll have to print the text onto these because I can't pronounce his name, but he actually studied painters, artists, and he noticed that even average ones, or not very good ones, but once they were into that place, they went somewhere. He could tell they went somewhere, that they've left this world, which I know I do when I'm playing. Yeah. And I'm always looking for other musicians to work with me that can do that. And that's what I'm looking for more than anything else. I don't care. They might not be as clever as the next guy, but if they can follow me into this C.S. Lewis, I will. So what are you aware of that? Or
yes.
What's going on when you're doing that?
Are you referring to the Polish writer or psychologist who's called Flo?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Very good. I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah, I read
it. People studied it for years, and it became part of psychology.
Yes.
When I read that, it's like a lot of things I'm researching with this book. Is that people in this in the science world have names for things that we have names for things. They're not the same names, but they're the same thing. So I always call that the moment. So I would go it's another story, but as a 13-year-old kid, I would get into bars in Australia. It wouldn't be trouble. The laws were pretty lax. And I would just go there in front of the stage and watch the bands. Yeah. And most of my friends would try and pick up girls or getting, weird. Yeah. Now, I did a bit of that. But, sorry, I did a bit of that. But mostly, I was looking at these bands, and every now and then, I could tell that somebody went somewhere.
Yes.
The guitar player or this thing. And I went like, what happened?
Right.
And it probably took me until, I was 13, it probably took me till I was 27, 28. Yeah. And I sort of, almost like, I think of Narnia, because they go through the cupboard. Yeah. And they go, that's what happened to me. And then I go, well, what happened? And now I know I can just turn the key. But so I call that being in the moment, which what he called the flow.
Yes.
It's a bit like when my wife, Karen comes and my like your room, your studio, my room is a pigsty. Yeah. And because I've got stands and lights and cameras, but I'm just here writing.
Yes, because you don't want to break that flow.
Yeah, well, I'm not even aware of it.
No, and what I do is just like every so many months, then I clean up and then I go back to dirty again. Right. Because you know where everything is. And it's funny, but you're talking more from a personal standpoint of flow, but when you were talking about a band, it made me think of Nick Cave.
Right, yeah.
Made the comment that connection, we know each other, we've been friends for years, but it's also the non-connection, the tension of being different people. That's what makes great art, is a tension of if you're in a band or you're doing a jazz little trio, it's that there's a little bit of a tension, there's a flow because you know each other and you know each other's think, but then there's a tension when somebody does something a little different and you got to play with that.
Yeah, I think that's the flow moment too for me. Yeah. So that's why I'm always looking for people that will flow with me. Yeah. Like we've done, I've played and you've painted. Yeah. So I like it when, say I've got a band, say a 4-piece band, and I might be the leader. Yeah. And we're singing my songs, and I say, this is how it goes, but the bass player or the piano player does something, and I go, ooh. Yeah. So let's just follow that. Follow the beagle, that kind of concept. To me, that's still being in the moment. And that's the case where I've often wondered I don't think I know anyone that does what you do, the live art. You probably know some other people, but I don't know anyone.
Not too many out there. In fact, when I first started it, I didn't know anybody was doing it. I found out later, especially there was a gentleman on the East Coast who did stuff with the Boston Pops. His name was Denny Dent. And he's the most famous, and a lot of people copy kind of what he does. He was the guy who did Hendrix, then flipped it over. He flipped the paint over. And he would take whatever the music they were playing, he would do that person. I think he did, a lot of different musicians. But he did it, and it was an original. Now people do it, and I feel like it's magic.
Yeah.
Like it's not original, but it's fine. Everybody has their different way of doing it. But what I like when I do it, it's always different because I'm thinking more of the people I'm doing it for than it just being me. I mean, because it's part of maybe coming out of that field of it's my personality is of design where, hey, we need this and we need it this, or this is what's happening. So I want to relate it to that. And that's where music comes into you're relating to the crowd and with the music.
Well, I am. That's the thing. That's
some
another
people.
thing. Yeah, and I was going to say is that
some people don't.
You go to a lot of concerts a lot of concerts, and you can tell they don't give a crap about me.
Exactly.
And then you find someone and they're pouring it out, and you go, well, I'm drawn to that model.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in the other model. So I argue this is a conversation I want to do a lot with when I interview people about art and inspiration is that I won't let an audience tell me what I can't do.
Yeah.
But I want to find out what I can give to meet a need of the audience.
Exactly.
So there's a wrestle there.
Yeah.
That's the confidence and whatever it is. So when you go, well, how many live art things have you done since? That was 15 years ago or 20 years ago?
Oh no, it's been 20. I want to say
from the first one.
Over 25 years ago.
Okay, 25 years ago. Before that, so 15 years as a designer and as a graphic designer. That's how we met.
Yeah.
Well, you just used
actually
my records.
Longer, more like 18 years as a designer illustrator. Well, because I was doing it during college and through that. Yeah. But I always tell everybody, there's nothing different than I'm doing now.
No, I know, but it's that thing when you step up. We've all got moments of the first time we did something.
Oh yeah.
The first time we played a gig, the first time a song was picked up, whatever. But the first time that I wrote for television was a bit like that. I'd never done it before.
Yeah.
But it was like I'd done it all my life.
Yes.
But the thing that I can relate to that for you is the immediacy. Like so, so I get a call at 10 o'clock sometimes, 10 o'clock in the morning, and can I write something and have it at their studio?
Oh yeah.
This was before the internet.
Oh yeah.
At 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and I love this. Okay, so you boundary, churn it out, and you do it. So I like that concept. But so for 25 years ago, that you first painted with Chuck Jr. telling you to do it.
Yeah.
Roughly how many times have you done it since? And you've done it all over the United States.
I have no idea. I will say it's hundreds, if not even that. Well, and then there's some events where I'm doing more than I'm doing a bunch of them at the. I did when I was doing more faith-based stuff. Now it's a little more fundraisers and corporate, but I do all of it still. But when I was doing mostly that, I did an event at a church, and there were 7 services. It was Easter. And so literally I was in the midst of it, and I started to seize up because it actually is a lot of physical going on.
Yeah.
And I'm painting on big canvases, and there was a person that was at the church who was kind of backstage, who's a stage manager, and she had worked in Hollywood. And what she would do is she'd see actors or certain people, and she'd go in and do deep tissue massage on them. And she literally saved me, for the last 3 paintings or whatever. I was starting to get cramped up, and it was affecting. And she just worked.
Do you have photos of those 7 paintings?
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to put that in B-roll.
Yeah. It was actually a Good Friday service for a big church, and I could say Mariners, I think it was. So I almost was doing the stages of the cross. So it was like Christ going all the way to the cross. Funny little story in that. I was putting words on each ones that related to the situation. I misspelled one of the words, and that's for me. I'm a pretty good speller. My mom was a teacher. It was like, you spell right. And so I was looking, and people were coming up the stage. There was communion going on, and I saw these little notes on the thing. It's like, oh, that's so nice. They're like notes to me to thank me or whatever. And I go, it actually happened after the fact. I saw what they were writing, but I caught that I had missed a letter on something. So that's what all those notes were. There was people going, you left a letter off, fix this. So talk about interactive. I mean, people are trying to be,
But isn't there another one where you wrote, I did 6 fingers?
Oh, yes. Yeah. I was in Texas. I was in Plano, Texas. God, it brings back memories. And this was pretty amazing because it was this church, and there was it was in the middle of Texas, but it was people from all over the world went to this church. There was people from like Nigeria in the choir, because it's Ross Perot's company was there. So,
okay.
So they had people from all over the world. And anyway, and I had called a friend to come see. He moved that way, and I go, come see me paint. And he comes. I come off the stage, and he goes, oh, Mom, I loved it, but what's this spiritual significance of 6 fingers? Well, technically 5 fingers and a thumb. And I turned around, and my heart just went, because you're doing this for the church. They're going to put it on the wall, and you go. And I went up and I go to the pastor. I go, oh my gosh, I totally put too many fingers. And he goes, I love it. It makes me think of you painting it and how different it was, and it's unique. So we just left it.
It's like an AI painting, You mess with AI. You say, you can do a Van Gogh of Tom Clark, and you have 3 arms.
Yes.
You go, okay, now where did I get this wrong? Okay, so I asked you how many you've done it. Okay, so you also have done a lot of corporate ones, but you also done a lot of ones for people who memorial services.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't remember all of them. So the Kobe Bryant would be the most famous one.
Yeah.
Okay, but I know another one before that you did for a young lady who died of cancer.
I've done it. Yeah. So I was connected with Jesse Reese Foundation, NIGU. So people usually see it because they're really involved on ESPN. A lot of athletes get involved with the organization, and Kobe Bryant was also. That's how I got the Kobe.
Oh, okay.
Connected through that. I had met sort of, and that's a funny story because when they asked me to come paint at the thing, I was actually watching a Laker game. It was weird. But yeah, so what were we getting on?
Because the cancer. I just remember.
Oh yeah, so gosh, it's intense. So you're dealing with all these kids from like I would say like from 8 to 18, childhood cancer. That's what they deal with, and they help. Jessie died of cancer at 12, I believe.
Yeah,
and I had met her because of doing stuff at Saddleback Church, and she had seen me at all the children's events painting and other events. So she had mentioned it, so that's why they asked me to come paint. But so that is where I got that. So doing those things are very difficult because one family actually sat in my living room and I interviewed them about their son, and he literally became almost a medical trial for these doctors because he was dying, and they knew they'd have to try really radical stuff. So he has having limbs removed, and he was an amazing kid. And but interviewing them and then doing that painting for them it's a pretty special thing because I actually took words from the audience, put them up on the painting on the canvas, and then he was doing drone pictures. He was a great athlete, but after cancer, forget it. He had to give up things, so he took up drone photography. He took up cooking. He took up furniture building. This kid's amazing. And so the mother, this is real quick, but the mother says, "What is it when people die that they always say they were?" Yeah. And she just kept saying, He's still in my heart. He's still with me. And so the painting was actually little drone photograph, like of his drone. I took one of his drone photographs, and it was real abstract, but then I did the flip like Denny Dent, and it says I am, or it said he is, but it relates to God saying I am. I thought it was a pretty cool kind of thing, and it was pretty dramatic. Anyways, those kind of things are pretty amazing to kind of get into people's lives and deal with. As I call it, the most honest day is a memorial service.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I've done many. We've done it together, singing songs. I think, it's a joke. I don't like weddings. I really like memorial services.
I'm the same way.
Even as a child, it reminds me of Harold and Maude a little bit because My father couldn't do it because he was a product of the Second World War. He could never go to a funeral. He just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Too many people died when he was young.
Yeah.
So as a kid, my
Understandable.
mother would take me to all the things.
Yeah.
So that was the Harold and Maude
No, I
connection.
love that.
But there's something about it too. So I think when I go and play and sing songs or bring musicians, it's a gift that I can do. I also I hate small talk and I'm very, very shy. People don't understand that.
Yeah.
On stage, it's a whole different thing. But so I feel more comfortable not mingling with the crowd.
Oh yeah.
There's a funny thing happened years ago. Friends of ours, Neville and Louis from Philadelphia, New Jersey, we were invited to a wedding. So I happened to be over on the East Coast, so I went to the wedding. And then you don't like weddings too much, and there's all these people who want to talk, and we had our instruments in the car.
Yeah.
So we got our instruments out and set it up and started playing, uninvited, and just played for jazz pieces for 3 hours. And everybody says, "Oh, you're so generous." And my wife goes, "If you only knew the truth." He just doesn't want to talk to anybody. But it's true. I feel uncomfortable in it.
Yeah.
But when I'm playing, so the memorial services.
You're taking on in a way.
Well, I can relate to the mourning aspect.
Yeah.
The actual grieving thing.
Yes.
Anyway, I can get
I
that.
love that.
So the Kobe situation, that's a big painting too, right?
Yeah, it was. I want to say 4 feet by 8 feet.
Yeah.
And I had him and his daughter, and so it was actually way more emotional than I thought because I didn't have a personal connection with him other than him being a celebrity. And in fact, when I heard that Kobe had passed away, I felt kind of bad for all the other people that passed away because they weren't mentioning them.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, but when I learned more about Kobe and how much things he did for organizations that he didn't tell people about, he'd actually fly places and say, don't even say it. I want to help you here. So he did a lot of amazing things. So I was actually emotional. And then that his daughter died with him in the helicopter crash, I thought of my daughters and it just got emotional like I can't even imagine. And then the people that were left behind, his wife, and they had 4 daughters. And that's crazy enough, having 2 daughters. But there's a special thing with a dad with his daughters that's so incredible. But I respected him more for his being a father and what he did for these organizations than as a basketball player.
Yeah.
And that's stuff you kind of learn. And then you kind of tie that into the painting a little bit. So
when you do that sort of thing for somebody like not famous, so do you have more freedom, or did you have total freedom to do this as well? Would they have requests? I mean,
they had no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of last minute.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit of a trust because you've been doing it a while, and they don't look and go, "Wow, this guy is known for like embarrassing people." But there's also this thing, I think people, especially at a memorial, there's a respect thing that happens that you're not going to do something. But there's also things you discover while you're painting that you change. Like there was things I changed on the painting while I was doing it because I was just in the moment. But it's hard. Like, so to your example, one of the hard things is you're representing somebody, so you have to make it look like them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's always perfect. Kobe was pretty good, but it's difficult.
So no, you don't bring a sketch.
I'll have like a picture of him somewhere, just so I have, because I can't. I mean, in my head, because when you're in anything, if we don't see each other for a while, I'll forget a little bit more. And Kobe had passed away. I hadn't seen him as much. I need.
So okay, so where is that? Is that on your phone?
I've got it like on somewhere like down below my canvas
just
or something.
Okay,
I'll like glance at it, and I've done this enough to kind of know proportions pretty well, where I can kind of, and I'm a visual guy, so I'm an observer, so I can kind of, if you weren't here, I could kind of draw you pretty well, just because
you have.
Exactly. Just because that's something I do. It's just like some people are, they have a certain thing that they're good at. And so with him, and then with the daughter, and it's unique trying to, but as you're saying, in the memorial service, then bringing out, here's one example. I did a picture of a young lady. She was actually a good songwriter. Mm-hmm. She had written a song. She died at 17 or 18. and I painted her with things about her in the painting. Her mother called me back and says, I can't look at her every day on the wall. Could you just paint her over and do her favorite, was a sunset on the beach.
Oh, wow.
So I actually painted over her face and did a sunset on the beach. It's like crazy. So
how did you get into community art, and what would you describe that?
So like the collaborative?
Yeah, the collaborative,
Yeah, collaborative thing. Okay, it's funny because my original thing I did was more of a selfish thing. They asked me to paint, I think it was a thing at our church, yeah. And so it was Christmas. There was a Christmas dinner. My daughters, Jane and Eve, were fairly young, and I wanted to hang out with them. So I thought, what can I do where everybody else is painting?
Yeah.
I'll do a collaborative painting, and which is basically doing an outline of a painting and then cutting it up into pieces and then spreading it out to everybody, and then you have a number on the back. And
so they're all on the floor, right? So
they're on tables.
On tables, okay.
Yeah, and so people did it, but what I realized, it was actually more work.
Yeah, of course.
So I spent all the time putting it back together, and it was, but
that's the first time.
That was the first time,
right.
But the energy and how people responded, and when they don't know what the painting's going to be, they just have a little section. It depends on.
So do you tell them what colors? They can do whatever color they want.
So it started off, I just whatever colors, and I'd put out the colors. I'd mix the paints just so it wasn't too dark, so you could still see the black outline and stuff like that. And then I started getting more clever, where I would do sections of a painting, where I'd give to these particular. I'd have a template, and I know which numbers were this color, and I'd have the color kind of change as it goes across the canvas, or go from the outside in, like
right.
when we did that one in our backyard, where it kind of changes, so it has almost a radiating thing. So that's fun to kind of do that, and then not just do squares, but do like angles. It gets a little crazy when you're putting it together. But I just realized people just come to life. When you just give people an opportunity, like you with probably music, when they just start strumming on a guitar or something, or get a paintbrush and take their shoes, because what I always do is I'll have people take their shoes off, relax, and kind of get in touch with their inner child, in a sense, but it's more just being free. And so you see that with music and with art, and it's just this incredible thing. And then to have it revealed, I did it at orphanages in Russia, where the little kids bring up the number and they're so proud of it. And then I did it, like a Russian word for love and hope and all that. And it's just amazing what they just light up. So,
what's the biggest one then? The most attendees or artists?
So we did one at our church they asked me to do a stage design. I go, instead of me doing the stage design, I'm going to do a collaborative. So leading up to Easter, we had people painting at services and stuff outside. It was actually during COVID.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. But we were literally worshiping, and they had tables in front of the chairs, and people were painting, and it was getting all over. And I'm thinking, I love this church. It's so cool. And then we did outside, and it was 100 feet.
Wow.
By 18 or 20 feet tall. And I did it in sections of different color things. And it was the attributes, or the things they called Jesus: king, teacher, counselor, all those things. And so it was a sunset. It was a real mix of things. But when it came up, and on Easter, it kind of got built as we went.
Yeah.
And then, so that would be the biggest. Then I did one at an event, 24 by, much smaller, but 24 by 8. And I just did one for the city of Irvine for the Great Park. I did a couple, they weren't quite as big, but like 12 by 12. So it can be whatever,
Yeah.
And what I also try to do is figure out how many people will be painting on it, and then that will affect the size of the tile, or how big the piece comes, or where it's going to be after, where they hang it. So you got to think about all those things.
Yeah.
It's a lot of math that I'm not really great at, but I figured it out. Yeah, it tests me. Yeah.
So there's a thing that we have in common, but from a different perspective. So we've chatted about this many times, but so I don't believe anyone's tone deaf, except for I've studied it now, and I have to get the technical term. If you're not born, there's some little piece missing in your ear.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Otherwise, it's down to confidence. Most people don't believe that, right?
Okay.
So, but we've had this conversation before about. So I call it tone deaf.
Yeah.
And then so it's art deaf. You have a similar thing that everybody can paint, and I'm living proof of this, ladies and gentlemen, because I think I must have said something to Tom like this. It's amazing what comes out of your mouth, because if anyone says to me, I can't sing, I go, well, you can. And I've got people that I've actually coached, and they'll be on videos I do, where I've got one particular friend that 5 years ago, he'd never written a song before, and his first attempts of singing, sending me the demos are like, other people would say he can't sing. I go, I'm gonna work on this guy. So 5 years later, he now sings, and he's got little hits in other countries. But you said to me, I said, oh, I can't draw, and you go, yeah, you can. Same thing. So you got me drawing, and then painting, and now I do painting on some of my record covers and stuff. And it's not the same answer, but for me, I don't care. I don't have an ambition to be a great painter, because there's something about the child art in me that it does something to my soul, and I love being childish, whatever.
Yes.
Okay, but so what's your perspective on that about when you're working with people? Because you must have people come.
Yes.
I can't paint, and you've got to help them paint.
So crazily, there was and this is after the fact, way after I'd already figured out. I had some really good teachers that taught me how to draw. A lot of it's just, the main thing is attitude initially. Yeah. It's not trying to be perfect.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So people look at art and they think, I can't do that, so I have to be perfect at it. I have to do all these things. It's the opposite of it. It's like we talked about the childlike thing. It is actually the freer you are. And Betty Edwards, who was a professor at Long Beach State, not in the art department, in psychology, she did a whole thing on drawing with the right side of your brain.
Oh, exactly, yeah.
So what happens is your left brain is your smaller muscles and like tighter things, and that's why inventors and people who are really good with like mechanics and stuff are more left brain, because it's the muscles, it connects. Where that's why when I do live performance or a art workshop, I'll get everybody standing up and painting and put music on, take your shoes off and move and use your bigger muscles, because when you start getting tight with the picture, and the picture reflects that. One of my first teacher, it was my first teacher, it was a life drawing class. So my first class in college was life drawing. So I'm sitting there, 17 years old, and a person comes up and takes her clothes off, and they're right in front of me. I'm going, huh. But it's amazing how quickly you forget that they're nude, and you just start looking at the form. And what Arden Lanham, he was a Disney animator, he said to me, Tom, you do all this practice, you work out, you get all this stuff, but when you hit that canvas or that tablet, all bets are off. Everything should just be just you, the artist, and you should take all that training, whatever it is. And so it's very important, the training and all that stuff, and teaching people how to configure things and all that, but it really comes down to loosening yourself up and being free. Otherwise, all that stuff, because there's some artists who do really but there's no life in the painting. It looks perfect.
Well, same with music,
Yeah, exactly. Like technically amazing.
Yeah.
And even in music, you got people who, like a Bob Dylan, who people will say, well, he can't sing. I actually like his voice, but it's because there's so much rawness to it. But it's how he sings it and phrases it, and
well, you believe him.
Yes, it's authentic.
There's a thing that I discovered again about the drawing thing is that the right and left brain. So I've got lots of things on that, and I teach it when I go out and coach musicians. But okay, so texting and typing, left brain.
Yes.
Writing with your hands. So in every bag I've got pens and pads.
Yes.
Is a right brain. And then one day when I'm researching this, I realized that writing, like what do you call cursive writing, right, longhand writing, it's actually drawing.
Yes.
Because we're drawing shapes, an O or an A or a B. And so, I can draw because I can, although I can't read my own writing.
Yes.
So that's something. So when I coach, usually somebody brings their song to me and they bring a record, I can tell, left brain, you're approaching everything perfect, and so there's no soul in it. And the right brain goes, Well, you know the old story. The right brain goes, I wonder if I can jump off the roof and fly.
Yeah.
And the left brain goes, you're going to kill yourself, you're going to kill yourself. So they're the extremes.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
I kind of remember maybe a story you told me when you went somewhere, whether it was either a mayor of a town or some leader or a pastor of a town, I'm not going to do it. And you somehow, is that right? Or is it right? And you made him do it and then he came alive?
Yeah, well, I think one of them you might be referring to is outside of Chicago, and it was actually a church, and it was a emeritus pastor who had retired and had recently lost his brother.
Okay.
Went hiking.
Yeah.
And never came back. They don't know what happened. They don't know, I mean, if he killed himself, or they don't think so. They think he just got lost or whatever. They never found him, at least at that point when it was pretty raw still. But The Shack had recently come out.
Yeah.
Which kind of related to a little bit because it's hiking up in the mountains and he lost his daughter. So this pastor he's like, I can't draw. And he's in a suit and we put a, poncho or whatever. What do you call it?
Bib, whatever. Yeah.
I'm so bad. Art thing.
Smock.
Smock, thank you. It's a funny word, isn't it? Anyway, so he just starts drawing. He starts doing this thing and related to and he starts weeping. And like people around are going, never seen their pastor this way.
Yeah.
Because he's always has to maintain, right, in front of a congregation. But it just opened him up. It was just this incredible thing. And he was so grateful for just the opportunity to draw and paint because it opened up areas of his heart and his mind. And it was just incredible. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
I actually recently at the collaborative thing in Irvine, there's this one gentleman, he was there the whole day, and it was an invite. It was all these people, VIPs that had been involved with the great park and all that, and city folk. This one guy sits down with another gentleman and just starts trying, and he just was there the whole day. I'm going, well, don't you have to go back to work? Or because people would come in phases. So the other gentleman who was with him came up to me later and he goes, I just got to tell you, my friend had the most amazing day. This is he says this is the best day he's ever had, or whatever. He was severely autistic. And I didn't even realize it.
Oh, wow.
But being given the opportunity to sit there and just have his own little space and do art, and the fact that I was really encouraging to him, probably because I wasn't changing how I communicated to him. If I had known he's autistic or something, I would have talked to him differently. I don't know. I generally just talk whatever with people, but it really told me something like how everybody gains something, like music, how you see the things where the people can't remember, they have Alzheimer's and they put a song on and they can say it
my mother's at that place right now, so she's got dementia, hasn't got long to live, and she can't talk, but she can sing. And so what I don't understand about doctors, get with the program. Yeah. Just sing to them. Yes. And so anyway, that's a whole.
There's a whole book called "Art: Your Brain on Art."
Yeah.
It's amazing, and it talks about all the stuff that I can't remember what it says because it's all technical stuff, but it's all about that. Yeah. Of engaging people through the creative thing, because that's how God created us basically, as creative beings, and we just start, as we said earlier, circle back with Picasso, we start losing that as we get older. Yeah. But it's almost like with your mother, she's coming back to be a child.
Oh, absolutely. She's naughty. So there's something too about getting older, the wisdom side of things, possibly, but you don't have to be wise and old. You can be stupid and old.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think there's something. I was raised by my grandfather to think like this, to always ask questions. Yeah. And so one of the questions I've been looking at is nurture and nature. Yeah. That's with art, because we both have. You've got 2 daughters. I've got 2 sons, and the 2 daughters are both in film and art. Yes. Right. Yes. And my sons are both in music. Yeah. And they're both, and 4 kids are building a career out of that. Yes. And then your father was musical. Yes. My parents were musical and stuff. So,
and artistic too.
Yeah. So, but so some could look at us and say, "Oh, it's nature," all right. Yeah. But I think it's nurture as much because you've nurtured by people who let you do it.
And they encouraged it.
Yeah, that's what I say. Encouraged. Yeah. My parents weren't very good encouragers verbally. Right. But the boundaries were very open.
You saw what they did.
Yeah, I just did. You follow what they do. Like my
Yeah.
dad would get up every morning, go for a walk or a run, go to his studio and compose music.
Yeah.
My mother would work every day with him on production. So it's kind of like you have permission
Yeah.
somehow. So what would you say for people right now who are watching this and they go, well, they weren't encouraged to do this? And my personal thing is, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can actually shift it.
Yes.
You just have to get involved in something. So what would you say to someone?
Well, when you said that about your parents, it made me think of the Anthony Bourdain, his first book, where his parents would go to France because they were originally from France. They were all in America then, but they'd go back to visit their family, and he'd give the kids, they'd give them cartoons and books, magazines and stuff, and then they drove out to the country to this restaurant, and the kids just sat in the car, and they went in and had like an incredible meal because they realized the kids wouldn't get anything out of it, so they were taken care of. And he kept going, what is so special about that meal?
Yeah. Wow.
Why is that they will spend all this time and money and go all the way out to the country into this one restaurant and then just spend this time eating food? That's what started him exploring food, because he goes, there must be something special about it. So for me, I think, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but with like how I share with other people, like we were talking about earlier, that even the drawing, like a young person will come in and go, I want to be an artist. And they go, well, show me what you do. And I look at it and I go, was this done on a computer? And they go, yeah. I go, no, you got to draw.
Yeah.
You got to, like, you can just be sitting anywhere in an airport or whatever, and you just get your sketchbook and just draw. And the more you do it, it's like the 10,000.
Yeah, 10,000. Yeah, the 10,000 hour things.
Yeah.
I got people come to me the same.
Yeah.
Usually it's a parent,
Yeah.
a friend.
Yeah.
Who says, hey, can I send Johnny
Yeah.
over? He's finished college or whatever it is. And so
Malcolm Gladwell.
Malcolm Gladwell. Yeah, the 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
And then you sort of describe the work ethic or the process, which I love.
Yeah.
So I love the process of, just yesterday had some times I started a new song idea came, but it's a song idea that I can tell is going to be hard. It's not simple. It's not a love song. It's more of a protest song. Wow, how am I going to write this? And so I go, wow, I'm going to have to work at this, you know. And so I remember this particular one day, the young guy came, and I've known him since he was a little kid. And I described what a week was like, what a day was like. And it was like, you could tell, like, he was like, but that's work. I go, well, I like work.
Yeah.
I like practicing. I don't like rehearsing too much because once we get it, I don't want to kill the song, but I like touring, I like playing, I like being in the studio, and they're long days, like we're working on a film, it's an 18-hour day. It's crazy, but that's what it is.
You're in the flow.
You're in the flow, right? And you're with other people with the work ethic the same.
Yeah.
So I think that's a hurdle for many people, and I think a generational thing. They go to college or they have some parenting where they've been told they're going to be, they're going to go straight to the top. But the computer thing that you said is a really interesting example because every day if I go on YouTube, I get these ads that say, press this button and all the chords are written for you. It's like, I don't want that. Like AI, I use ChatGPT for researching. It's the best library, but I don't want it writing my song.
Yeah, it can be a shortcut for things.
I like writing songs. Yeah. Why would I want to steal joy from it? No, exactly. And it's hard work. I can't find that word. I can't find that metaphor. I can't find that image.
Right.
Oh, wow. Well, I get angry. I go, this is fun. It's like Sherlock Holmes, critical thinking maybe.
Yes.
I got the little, what do you call those things? Eyeglass.
Oh, yeah, a monocle?
No, not the monocle. Oh. Come on, folks. What are they called? No, magnifying glass.
Oh, magnifying glass. Okay.
And that's what the process, the journey is.
Yeah. When you have a reel, and to me it gets back to what your whole thing is, curiosity.
Yeah.
If you're not curious, you're not going to keep going. You keep moving. So my thing is, I would say to people is, if you like it, keep thinking of other ways to do it. Don't get stuck into a rut, because I would do that with paintings. I go, I can crank this thing out. I can do this in 5 minutes, and I know how all the tricks and everything, but I have to keep challenging myself to change it up. And there's actually that tension of not knowing if it's going to be good. Sometimes I go, it's not that good, but I think people who are witnessing, that's the beautiful thing about live art. Even if the painting's not great or perfect, the energy they feel that you're working things out up there. You know, they see me changing and moving things in color. There's something.
Yeah.
The same thing in music, live music.
You know, it's actually making me think about, and we're both the same in this way, that
Yeah.
Without mentioning names, you know the record labels I used to sign to, and that would drive them crazy because I couldn't do the same thing again.
Yes.
I already did that. They'd say, "Can you come write another song like I said a lot ago?" No, it's not the same. So there's a joyfulness in the thing I was going to say. The audiences actually, when, in a live setting, they like when you go somewhere, when you try something different.
Oh.
It's the corporate aspect of the record labels. They just want you to just make another one the same, because if the artist wants to do something new, and that's the child aspect.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny Cash, before he passed away, and he did those amazing records.
Oh, that was the best.
To me, that's my favorite records.
Yeah.
But when my father heard him, my father was a jazz musician, and he heard Johnny, and he goes, "Oh, the poor guy, why'd they let him do that?" And I went like, "Oh yeah, you can't hear the poetry in there."
And it also took a Rick Rubin,
yeah,
to kind of identify and see the beauty in Johnny Cash and his roughness and the beauty of that. He wanted to make that almost apparent in the record, and I think Johnny Cash, as he's doing the recording, starts realizing this is good.
Yeah, what a way to go out. I mean, his
like,
version of "Hurt," which is Nine Inch Nails song, and their song is like really angry.
It's crazy.
And he does this song, and it's like, I was sitting in someone's kitchen, and they were playing the record, and it's like, I know this song. Where do I know this song from? And all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh, it's a Nine Inch Nails song, and they made it more real, and because that song about being hurt, and
but I always also it just reminded me of Eric Clapton with Layla. Like Layla's, then just to start off with that little just guitar, little riff, and just acoustic, and it changed. I think a lot of the music that you see coming out.
Well, that unplugged. I don't know if it was the first one, but I think it was the first record, and then everybody started copying them.
Yeah.
And that unplugged thing happened.
I know that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
You come up with something good, and then everybody ruins it because they take the juice out of why it's good. It becomes a cliche, and
Well, that's why I think that I hope to do through these podcast conversations is to stir up the concept of being the identity of the person.
Oh yes.
And so I learned by emulating James Taylor and Jackson Brown and Stevie Wonder and Eric Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan. I learned by that, and there's bits of them in me.
Yeah.
But I am who I am. So it's trying to find that little thing. And that's enjoyable and risky and scary.
Yes.
But that's the best part, and that's what a child does. A child doesn't care that someone doesn't like it, and I like it. Like in painting this color and stuff. So
it was the joy of making.
Yeah, joy of making something. Yeah.
It's just the joy of making. It's not even the finished product. It's more the joy of making. That's why live art is unique. It's kind of more the joy of making, and people seeing the joy of making it. Because I think they feel that I'm enjoying it, and I think they enjoy it because they're seeing the process, not the finish.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a finished piece, but I actually sometimes go, I feel bad it going on a wall because it really wasn't meant for a wall. It was just meant for that moment. But kind of like music.
Well, I think the same thing. I always, when I go, I'm going to Australia soon in 4 weeks' time, and I'm going to play with some people that I haven't played with before, probably.
Yeah.
And they all try to learn the record, and I go, no, that's the record.
Yeah.
And I try to find out what they can and can't do. So I think, that's not their strength. I can make this. And then I say to them, when we play tonight or tomorrow, it's a moment in time, and no one's ever done that before.
Yeah.
We're actually creating history.
Yes.
And it should sound like we're friends together. And some people get it, and some people don't.
Yes.
But that's joyful to me. I don't mind that risk. I mean, I've traveled all around the world. Say pick up bands in Africa, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, United States, and sometimes it's a train wreck. Let's be honest.
Yes,
it's a train. You go, oh my God, that was pretty tough, and other times you go, wow, that was great. And do we record it? I hope not, because it is. I'm not a fan of. I've got live records, but my record labels did. I'm not a huge fan of them because there's better. when you were there.
Yes.
There's actually the video of one, and you're there. I can see on the audio.
Oh,
so,
yes. Yeah, I did the CD cover.
Yeah, and
I did the art.
Karen's and my wife's.
Yeah, yeah.
And that moment was great, but in the record, as good as it was, it's never as good as when you were there, right?
Right.
So it's just one of those.
No, you can't ever take that back, you know, and that's why I always tell people come to the live art, because if I do a video of it, it's just doesn't. There's something visceral, right? You know, you're touching, you're feeling, the music. There's people in the audience. There's mistakes. There's
Yeah.
there's feedback on thing. Remember we talked about the Miles Davis thing where all blue.
Yeah.
That famous thing where the drummer actually kicked a drum during the recording of it, and Miles did a improv off of that kicking and made a whole different thing, and that's the biggest selling jazz album I think of all time.
Yeah.
And it was totally a mistake, made off of a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of it, and responding and relating to it and not freaking out. And that's the beauty of like doing art is you can make a mistake, you can, but some of that mistake is like that's why I was telling you were drawing, and I go, I don't want to teach you too much.
Yeah, no.
Because I like your style, you know, is unique. And
yeah, because I don't actually know what I'm doing.
yeah.
So I'm practicing right now. I told you I'm practicing writing.
Yeah.
I've got that Paul McCartney book,
Yeah.
Songwriting book, whatever that's called, song stories or something.
Yeah.
And having fun drawing his face and different
Yeah.
things and discovering different things. And you discover little techniques. Like, so the first time I drew, I was trying to draw hasn't got whiskers. Hasn't shaved for today.
Right.
And I was just writing, drawing like that. And
Yeah.
then I went, no, that's wrong. And then I was lying in bed. How do I do that? Oh, I do it like that, which is a technique. I don't know what that's called.
Stippling.
Yeah, I don't even care.
Yeah, or
I
whatever.
go,
Yeah,
oh. And
yeah.
it's that fun thing of just, that's a discovery thing. So for me on the painting or drawing side is, I don't know, like if I do something well, I don't know what I did.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. Like I do it again, I don't know what I did. Now in the studio, pretty much I know what I did.
Yeah.
Recording.
Yeah.
Or I plug that microphone, or I also make notes
Yes.
if something sounds good. With painting and drawing, I go, oh, there's one thing I want to do a better one, and I go, oh, I wish I knew what I did before. But the painting behind you, is that you're going to sell that?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna
Yeah.
sell it. I think I have a art show coming up.
You're going to show in your house, right?
Yeah, it'll be
so
here.
Have you ever done an art
Nope.
show in your house before?
Never done it.
Okay.
It's partly, I think we talked, it's partly because I just never been a gallery artist. I do live stuff, so usually the art is left there. But I do stuff in between that, and this was actually a live thing, but it wasn't something I was paid to do, so I just took the painting home. And it was at that event space, but I'll sell this and sell a few other things, and I do a lot of sculpture kind of assemblage pieces.
Yeah, we'll do a little thing.
Yeah.
We'll do a little walk around, or you can send it to me, like the stuff. But so I don't know when this video comes out, but in the next, how long ago? When is this?
Probably late fall, like
What does that
maybe
mean?
before Thanksgiving, probably like November, late. I haven't.
You mean
picked a date.
autumn?
Yes, autumn. Yes, that's a better way of saying. Autumn is a nicer word.
Like
It's like
October?
Thomas and Tom.
Yeah.
See, fall. Autumn.
Yeah.
See, it just sounds better.
Become Christopher.
Yeah, Christopher is nice. I like
Christopher was always. I'm in trouble when I hear Christopher.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Me
Yeah,
too with
so,
Thomas
yeah,
Arthur
yeah,
Clarke.
yeah.
Christopher
So,
Robin.
so you're gonna
That's what I'm saying.
you're gonna turn this house, which already is an amazing looking house anyway.
Yeah.
You're gonna turn this into an art gallery and invite
Yeah.
neighbors,
I'm
friends,
just gonna
family.
I'll invite everybody.
People who've got
I'll
money.
just put it out on social media and email and
Really?
come with cash. No, I'm just kidding. Well, Teresa will like it because she wants to get some of this wall stuff off the walls so we can put something else that's not mine. Because that's what ends up happening. But yeah. So I'm not really good. I'm not a prolific artist. I don't do the 10,000 things all the time. The live art I am because I do it all the time because it's a project that I'm hired to do. But on my own, as Francis Schaeffer said about creative people, it's like your life is your art.
Yeah.
And sometimes my art spills over into other things. Sometimes it's conversation, right? Is wordplay, how we talk with each other is an art form.
Well, I'm thinking like this for me. I never thought of this before until someone else saw one of my little videos. They say, you should do this all the time. It's like, all right, I'm a musician. I write songs,
Yeah.
And then, but I thought, actually, I like storytelling, like anything. I wonder, so this is a test too.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can make this part of my life, because also there's something about like even today, like some of the conversations, or some things I know a lot about you, but I discovered things I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think also for what we both want to do, go out there and do live things. Coach, I want to coach people. You want to do these things.
Fun. I love collaborating.
Well, there's something also that maybe in the conversation, as people might watch this video, they discover, I didn't realize that's what collaborative art was. Oh, I didn't know what live art is. We should get that guy to come and do that event for us, or think
and have
about
you do the music.
Yeah.
No, because I like painting with people I like to paint with, right? You know, I mean, I like good music, and you make great music.
Hopefully, we've got some photos. I don't know how good the photos are, but we did an event together.
Yeah.
And in a bar, down in Dana Point.
Yeah.
And so we're playing, and I've got a great band, Linda McCrary, Sharia, and Dan Hannaford from Australia, Dave Raven on drums, John Schreiner. So it's rocking,
Such a good.
And we're playing. We do a couple of, a set and a half or something, and then everybody's looking at us and going, singing along, and then you start painting. And one of the most amazing phenomena was watching the audience go and just look at you, and we were going, hey, hello, the band's over here. But because it was actually, I don't think a lot of the people had never seen that before, and also it was really close. I mean, I didn't get any paint on me, but I was really close to you.
Oh, yeah?
And you had a big drop sheet down here, and people would have been within touching distance, right?
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
I always wanted to wear that white shirt. I've actually people wanted artwork, and I said, take your shirt off. They had like an undershirt or something, or I'm at a fundraiser, and I take the undershirt, and put it under my canvas and do it. But what happened initially when I started doing with churches is that would happen with the worship leader. They would get a little edgy, and they go, people aren't worshiping. They go, they're worshiping, but it's new to them. People are multitaskers. Watch after the second song. They'll start shifting back to you. Now they can do both. It's almost like
it's not about me, is it?
Exactly.
That's the thing.
No, but it's funny, and I can't see because I've got my back to the audience. Yeah. You're seeing everything, so you're seeing how people. I don't know what.
It was actually such a really great thing. Well, I can think of a couple of people we both know them. I won't say their names, but just they were like, and they have actually seen you paint many times because they're from the same community.
Yeah.
But our husband and wife, I remember them going, wow, and there's some energy there. But I think also the music, we were doing Stevie Wonder or Andre Crouch or something with a groove in it.
And of course,
and you were really into it. And all the paintings you did were jazz related or funk, gospel-y kind of looking. And they were round because Picasso shapes to me. Yeah. But there was an energy there which I really loved. And I think, so I hope I can inspire other people to do, not what I do, but the way they would do it. But I would like to see hundreds of people do what you do around the country where they're actually healing communities or going to places that are struggling and all of a sudden doing community art or doing live art. But to do that, you have to be like a child.
Yes.
People don't understand that. You have to be like a child. So when I get up and play, I'm playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
I get up I'm going to tell some of these stories when I sing and play.
Yeah.
But I will do things and take a risk. And it might go bad, and it might be calamity, and so I like that, and that's why I was looking for musicians who are willing to do that as well, and the audiences will love it. It's the bureaucrats, the producer, the record labels who don't like it because they're afraid until they see it happen.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is people seeing something like you said, and that's why I love comedy. I think it's the most dangerous occupation out there is because you're going up and saying things people have never heard and you could offend people or whatever, or people will say things that might get, but if you're comfortable in what you do, you can use that energy and actually make it work. I remember going to a Shakespeare play. I know we have limited time, but Teresa and I saw King Lear at the Barbican Theatre in London, and in the middle of a soliloquy, King Lear is speaking, and the lady goes, "Spike up! I can't hear you." And
that's your impersonation of a British.
I know it was horrible. I know, but I was like mixing different dialect. Anyway, and the person didn't react. He stopped, let them speak, and then it almost gave his speech that much more energy because he was almost directing it at her.
Yeah.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
He used the energy of the room and use it, because that could have really thrown somebody off.
Yeah, I saw Jerry Lewis in London also, and I forget the play. I have to think of the play, but he was playing the role of a devil. It's a famous play. I can't think what it is, but Dan Yankees.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
It's Dan Yankees. That's what it is. Anyway, so he for about 2 seconds he lost his line, and there's this dead. So he just said, a funny thing happened to me on the way to the theatre today, and he launched it. And he says, "I'm doing this because I forgot my lines, folks," and it was hilarious for 5 minutes. And he goes, "I got him." Went back to the thing. And I thought, man, that was so good. Now I always liked Jerry Lewis, but I loved him so much more because he wasn't afraid to go, "Well, I messed up. I lost my lines." And there's no business, like show business goes on. But there's that thing. I'm also
and he can bring him as long as he brings them back.
Yeah. Well, occasionally I'll forget my lyrics.
Yeah.
Not occasionally, a lot.
Yeah.
And we did a concert here in Irvine and the Meadows, and Chuck Jr. was there, and he said to me, "Oh, you sang the verses back to front in Can You Go the Distance?" So I was like, "Oh, did I? Oh, whatever. You know, I don't know, whatever." But there's a couple of times now where I go, especially if it's people come to hear me, they know my music, I'll just say, what's the next verse? How to go? Yeah. And it's more powerful, and they get them singing along. And it comes from, I just forget. I haven't sung it, or my memory's going bad. But that little interplay with an audience, the more you can do that, and again, it comes down like the child thing. I don't care if you think of an idiot, someone might think of an idiot, but it's an awful lot of fun. And most people just go, "Oh, wow, that was great," you know.
Oh, and like you said about the people, I know we can edit some of this out or whatever, but where people are reacting because they're looking at, and this one pastor it was an Easter service, it was in North Carolina, and people were looking over at me, and he goes, "Yeah, I don't know what's going on behind me. He could be doing an Easter bunny back there." I started drawing an Easter bunny on the canvas. And it was great because sometimes people can take things too seriously, and it's a serious moment. It's Easter, but Easter is resurrection, so it's fun. So it was, and then it just broke the ice, and then he laughed, and and I painted over it. But there was still a little bunny in there somewhere in that painting. So it was just kind of a fun kind of thing to kind of just take people out of their element and make people feel a little more human, I think, in the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was truly great spending time with another curious child.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
I wonder how many children I can find out there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the beauty. We're all kind of kids just doing our thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun. I had a great time talking with Tom. We could have talked for hours and hours, and I think we've stirred up something like a hornet's nest in a good way. We're going to make more of these podcasts because there's something about being together and creating conversation about being curious. But if you want to know more about Tom, I'll leave a link below. It's tomclarkstudio.com. You might want a live event or get him to paint, or a collaborative event in your community. Anyway, the link's below. Also, please don't forget to subscribe. I want to make lots more of these podcasts. I want to interview people from all walks of life who are involved some way in creativity, just to stir up this notion that we're all creative creatures. We're designed to be creative. So don't forget to subscribe. Also, I'll leave links below for any of the books we talked about, because some of these books about being a child and thinking differently and being in the flow, they're fascinating. You can get them at Amazon. Links below. And otherwise, stay curious. So see you soon.